Hi, everybody. My name is Mary King, and I'm the director of the Masters in Accounting Flex program at UT Dallas. So the purpose of the video webinar here is to go over registration information for new students starting this summer or fall 2023. So I'm going to go ahead and go through our slides. So first, we're going to talk about next steps, give you a program overview. We'll go over academic and CPA planning guidelines and share a couple additional resources. So first, next steps for everybody is to review the welcome and admit email and the waiver email that should have been sent to you. This should have been after you got admitted and should have been sent by the MS Accounting at utdallas.edu inbox. If you did not receive those emails, check your spam or go ahead and email us at that email. We'll make sure to send that to you. Next, make sure that you check your holds and contact the graduate advising office. Their email is right there to remove any hold. Specifically, there's one called the new student advising hold. Once that's removed, you should be able to register for classes, especially those who do not have any prerequisites. If there are classes that you're trying to register for that do have prerequisites, we'll go over that in the prerequisite section. Next, you'll want to set up a meeting to meet with either myself, the program director, or Professor Jenna Kerman, our academic director, regarding your coursework. We can meet with you throughout your time here as well. I am on maternity leave through June, and so in the meantime, make sure that you reach out to them as a county email, and Professor Jenna Kerman can also meet with you. Next, you'll want to submit any waivers. So we're going to go through a couple different waivers, but there are 3 types, and we'll talk about that. Some of them will affect your registration, so you want to make sure you submit them as soon as possible. Next item, you'll want to review the MS County degree plan and make your track selection there's a link that you'll get through your email. Please note that the fall 23 catalog has a slight change to what you see on the website right now, which is the current year catalog that will affect summer 23 students. So in the degree plan that I'm going to show you, and also what you'll get in your email, it will reflect what should be approved as final under the fall catalog. Now that will be on the website until June 1st, but the degree plan worksheet correctly reflects what the catalog should have as updated once it's available. Next item, you'll want to review the CPA requirements and plan coursework. And so in your new student email that you would have gotten, there's a lot of attachments on there. So go through the attachments that will include CPA requirements as well as your degree plan planning worksheet. And then next is just to register for coursework. So that could be adding, dropping, swapping. The other items are kind of just next steps in terms of buying books, reviewing materials. All the courses are the course schedule and syllabi for prior semesters and faculty evaluations. All of that you can find on Coursebook. You'll want to monitor your UT Dallas email because that's where you'll find information, especially the West County e-news about upcoming events, important information. If you would like to set up advising appointments throughout your time here, whether for academics or CPA, you're more than welcome to do so. Go ahead and just email that MS Accounting email. And last, if you have quick questions specifically about waivers or registration, the JSOM grad advising office, they're your best point of contact. But if you have questions specific to the program, CPA eligibility, you'll want to contact us at the MS Accounting email. So this is my contact information here, and this is the email that will go to both myself and Professor Jenna Kerman. So just to differentiate, the academic advising office, they're responsible for just overall admissions, registration, degree audit, graduation, whereas the MS Accounting program, so myself and Professor Jenna Kerman, we can assist with CPA planning, schedule planning, career advice, program issues. So let's go ahead and talk real quick about kind of the CPA requirements that some of you may be interested in. The license is issued by the Texas State Board of Public Accounting if you want to get licensed through Texas. And so the requirements are you have to fulfill educational requirements before you can take the exam. Work experience can happen at any point before, during, or after your time here. And so the general CPA requirements include 150 college hours, 30 upper level accounting hours, 24 business hours, and 3 ethics hours. And so You will get all your accounting hours and your ethics hours here at UTD, and you can get up to another 3 hours of business hours. You can modify that a little bit depending on what track you pick, but if you're needing most of these accounting hours, you can get it here. Now, if your background was business, not accounting, you would have gotten all the business hours already. And if your background was not business, not accounting, you'll still get the accounting hours and ethics hours and up to 3 hours with the business, but you may need to pick up some extra business hours after that. And that can be done through multiple ways. You could go to community college, you could pick up a second master's degree here by overlapping both degrees. Or it's possible your undergrad degree had some business hours like economics or statistics. So a recent update with the Texas State Board's public accounting rules is the accounting information systems requirements. So basically what you'll want to make sure you do is effective 2024, for those who will be CP eligible beyond then, you want to make sure that you include a systems class during your time here. And so the one that's offered right now is Accounting 6330A Systems Integration and Configuration. So this one is offered in the spring and summer, usually online. So just keep that in mind. There's a prerequisite to that class, which is Intro to Managerial Accounting, Cost Accounting, or an undergrad accounting degree. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're planning to take that class. Let's talk about planning for your degree. So you'll want to review your tracks to determine which plan will be best fit for your goals. In the degree plan sheet that you'll get in your admin email, you'll see all the different tracks on there. And so you'll want to also review your CP eligibility. So there are notes in that file at the beginning of each course in parentheses that will tell you how each class counts for CP eligibility. Number 3, you'll want to submit waivers for core and prerequisite waivers. If the waiver is approved for core waiver, then an undergraduate course with the same prefix as that waiver course should be taken. So, for example, intermediate 1, 2, and cost, that is required for all the tracks. But if your undergrad degree was accounting, if you've taken that class within 6 years and you got a B or better, then usually you should get that class waived, which means you don't need to do it at grad school. You can replace it with another upper level accounting class. Those are the 3 core waivers. Now, prerequisite waivers are something different. That is when you have taken a class like financial accounting in your undergrad, and you now want to take any other class in grad school that needed financial accounting as a prerequisite. So in this case, tax 1 is a good example. The prerequisite for tax 1 is financial accounting. And so if you've done financial accounting previously, then you'll want to submit a prerequisite waiver here to basically waive you out of having to take financial accounting again, just to enroll in tax 1. So we'll talk about the logistics of that in a few moments. Number 4 is the program prerequisite. That class you can also try to waive if you have a significant, if you meet the requirements. The main one that most people meet is at least a 2-year work experience. But in the waiver link, you'll see kind of what the other requirements are. But basically, you'll want to take that class in your first semester unless you submit the waiver and it gets approved. Then you don't have to take that class at all. It's a professional development 1-hour class that runs only 8 weeks in your first semester, typically. And then number 5, be prepared to select a track before registering for your second semester courses. That link, again, we've sent it to you in the new student admin email if you need it. We'll send it out to you through the e-news emails from the program, but if you need it also, you can always email us. So let's talk about tracks. The tracks are designed based on students' background, their educational background, and also what their goals are. So track 1 and track 2 are primarily for those who want to get their CPA and they want their coursework to reflect a kind of just the foundational broad range of CPA review or CPA courses. The difference is that track 1 is designed for those with an accounting undergrad, whereas track 2 is designed for those whose undergrad degree is not accounting. Track 3 is for those who want to focus on tax and internal audit. That would be for track 4. We have a very strong program here. Track 5, the accounting analytics track, that is the most flexible track that allows students to meet their academic or career goals, and that could include the CPA, could include the CMA, or other types of corporate accounting type areas. And so there's also a component that's focused on data analytics. Um, if your background was not accounting, you could still utilize this track by picking electives that are mostly accounting that fit the CPA requirements. Now, if your background was accounting, this track could also work because you have a broad range of courses you could pick. It could be accounting electives, or you could choose up to 4 non-accounting business school graduate electives. So those who want to double major, this is also a good track because of that flexibility with getting to pick electives. And those of you who want more online classes or working, this track may offer more flexibility in terms of offerings, etc. The last track is track 6, the research track. Those who are interested in going to research in the future, that will have some different types of research coursework. So I'm going to go over a couple quick guidelines here. Sequencing the course prerequisites as you are picking classes. So this is true regardless of which track you pick. Okay, so there's a financial accounting sequence where you will need to make sure you have done intermediate 1 before intermediate 2 before advanced financial reporting. The tax track starts with either financial accounting or intermediate 1 as a prerequisite for tax 1, which is a prerequisite for tax 2 and any other tax elective. And the next sequence is audit. So you may go the external audit route or the internal audit route. With external audit, intermediate 1 is required for the first auditing class, which is external audit, which is required for advanced audit. Whereas if you go the internal audit track, you can take internal audit without any prerequisites, and that would fulfill the prerequisite for advanced auditing. In terms of picking other electives, some students find this chart helpful in terms of how the CPA is currently designed. Each of the 4 sections kind of focus in different areas. So you can see this last row, it'll highlight kind of which courses are here offered at UT Dallas that best provide the content on the section on CPA exam. So you can see here, if you're looking for electives, regardless of which track, I think helpful ones to consider would be, so everybody will do intermediate 1 and 2, but advanced financial reporting, that's a good one to take regardless of which track you're on and whether or not your track requires it. Government not-for-profit, same thing. Audit, the first external audit class generally will give you basic information, but for those of you who want to learn more about external or internal audit, you may want to take the advanced level audit class. Regulations, that's your tax. So y'all want to make sure you've done at least tax 1 and tax 2, which is individual and a partnership corporate tax, primarily corporate tax and tax 2. Okay. Ethics, everybody, that is a recommended class for everybody to take regardless of the track you're on as well. Now, BEC, that is mostly your general business, information systems, and so classes like cost, information systems, financial statement analysis, those are good electives to take. So in terms of CPA eligibility guidelines, you will want to go by what the Texas State Board says ultimately, because they're the ones that will sign off on your what's called an application of intent, which is basically your eligibility paperwork to start taking the exam. So if you just search TSBPA, they have all of their requirements on there. And so in terms of online coursework, all of your classes can be online for CPA purposes. There's no limitation there. Now, you will want to pay attention to the specific research and communication requirements that you do need to meet for Texas CPA requirements. Is 2 hours of each. And so the classes that we have at here, UTD, we've already embedded that requirement into some of the classes here. So that link here will help. And then also the ethics course link, you could take it here at UTD, or if your schedule doesn't allow room for it, there are technically other schools you could take that from as well. Number 3, you need to pay attention to this link, okay? It's basically the courses that are offered at UTD that meet these CPA requirements, because not every UTD class that's labeled ACCT necessarily will count towards the 30 hours of upper level accounting. So under 4B, you'll see that some examples. So 6305, accounting for managers, 6309, database foundations, etc. Business law, CP review classes, those do not count for the 30 hours of upper level, nor the 150 total. So keep that in mind. So in terms of the communications and research credit, currently as it stands, you can see what's offered at UTD that covers each of these requirements, and you'll want to embed them into your coursework regardless of which track you're on if you want to be CPA bound. So tax 1, tax 2, and governance, risk management, compliance, those are the main ones that are offered now that give you the communications credit. And remember, you need 2 hours total. So you'll need 2 of those that are highlighted. Accounting communications has not been offered in some time, but if you ever do see it offered again, it would count for 2 hours. And in terms of the research requirement at the grad level, 6,000 and above, you will pick at least a combination of the classes that would give you 2 hours total of research. Okay, some tips on registering for classes. You'll want to make sure you remove the holds by contacting the advising office. You want to avoid taking more than 9 to 12 hours each semester. 9 hours is considered full time in grad school. Those who are working typically take 3 to 6 hours, so keep that in mind. Number 3, plan to take your courses according to a track and be prepared to select your track at least before registering for second semester coursework. Number 4, you want to overall plan to complete anything that's a prerequisite for anything else within your first year. Number 5, if you want to review faculty evaluations, course offerings, past syllabi, you can look at prior course syllabi, course book information from prior semesters. Number 6, that's just telling you to balance your core and elective courses. For international students, number 7, you'll want to consult the ISSO office regarding how many, what are the online restrictions, etc. And then number 8, for those of you who may want to double major, them secondary degree with another master's degree, you want to check crosses of classes in the catalog. So, for example, the accounting systems class that we mentioned earlier, that is a process of class with MIS. So if you were to do an MBA, for example, you could actually get that class to count towards the MIS side so that frees you up more hours that count towards accounting, because the MBA office, for example, has a limit on concentration courses, which is 12. We talked about these prerequisites earlier. So just as a recap, if you qualify for any of the requirements under number 2, you could qualify to waive the professional development 1-hour class. And then let's talk about the other 2 waivers briefly. So remember, core waivers are intermediate 1, 2 in cost. Okay. And by waiving out of those classes, that means you do not have to repeat them at the grad level. You can take something else in its place. It has to be an accounting graduate course. Now, prerequisite waivers, remember that is when you've taken financial accounting before tax 1, or you've taken tax 1 before tax 2, and you want to take that subsequent level class. So if you note number 1 and 2, they both have the same link. When you're submitting the waiver, the difference is there's a different box to check. So there's a box 1 and there's a box 2. So read it very carefully what it's asking for you to do. Number 3, we talked about the professional development waiver. Number 4, credit transfer requests. You want to make sure that if you want to transfer any hours into the degree, you can transfer up to 9 hours, but you want to make sure that first you completed that class within your first year of admission here, and second, you submit the proper paperwork. So there's a pre-approval form and a post-approval post form. If you want to do internship for academic credit, the Career Center is a great resource for that. But basically, you could get up to 3 hours of upper level accounting credit or internship hours by taking this class. You will need 12 hours to have them been completed. You'll need your GPA to be at least 3.0. And for CPA eligibility, you have to have had 12 hours of upper level accounting before this internship class. So keep that in mind. Now, if you're a domestic student, you do not need academic credit. I would say if there are other electives you'd rather take, then do that. If there are no other lessons you want to take and it's a busy semester, you're working either at a new internship or your existing job, you technically could get internship credit for it. And the internship credit actually counts towards the 30 hours of low level accounting. Graduation promotion, just know that 3.0 is what you want to shoot for. If you do fall below 3.0, you do have 3 semesters to bring it up. Some other recommendations are just to stay in touch with the Career Center. They have a lot of different resources, workshops, handshake accounts. You can post your resume, look for jobs, etc. Some 1 credit hour options are internships, the independent study, the CP review class, and the JSOM study abroad trips. There are a lot of organizations you can get involved in. VITA is something through the IRS every spring. You can contact Professor Zoltan here, but basically you would prepare tax returns for low-income families. There's a lot of student organizations that you can get involved in, so you can see kind of here the breadth. Additional resources you can see here. There's guidelines to the catalog, COVID, CMA exam, CPA advising, etc. And then this also has some resources regarding your career. For example, General Connect is a UTD version of LinkedIn. And there's some other great links on this page that will help you with narrowing down your career area if you're not sure yet. So lastly, I wanted to go over the degree plan worksheet as an example for y'all. Okay, so this is an example of a degree plan sheet that you would get as part of the packet that gets attached to the new student and admit email when you first get admitted from our program. And so if you're coming in the fall, for example, you'd be on the 23-24 catalog and the student's background was accounting. Okay, so track wise, you could do any of the tracks. Okay, so track 1 could work. You would just need to put those out. You would need to make sure that your background was already accounting. The other thing you need to make sure is that this track does require the CPA review classes on campus. And so make sure that, so in the spring, these courses will be on campus. In the summer and fall, they will be online. So the rule is before you take this class, you need to be eligible for the CPA exam. So keep that in mind if you decide to do that. But remember, these classes also do not count towards the 30 hours or the total 150 hours. But they are, but you could take them for credit. But for this particular track, you could see besides the core courses and track related core, the track related free core courses are these classes here. And then this degree plan allows you to take 1 class that's separate, not even in accounting if you were interested in something else. Okay, so track 1 has multiple iterations because it's showing you what it would look like under the track related elective courses. And this is based on the change in this new CPA exam. The reg section as it is going to go away. And so the new section, you'll get to pick which section you want to focus on. So it could be business analysis and reporting. It could be, so that's the business analysis and reporting. And you'll see it on the top BAR of the file here. And then this is for ISC. So this is more for your information systems and control focus. And then again, track 1, but this is for those on the tax compliance and planning in that area, focus in that. You'll want to take the new elective courses according to their new structure. Track 2 is designed for those whose backgrounds were not accounting and they just want a overall solid foundation of courses that will prepare them for the CPA. And so you can see here, again, the same as the core classes in the professional development class. And then you have track related core classes and track related free electives. So the core classes, you'll want to take all of those, and then track related elective courses, there's 4 of them. You'll notice you'll want to pick 1 from this list, pick 1 from the second list, and then there's a 3rd class fundamentals of tax 2. And then the last option is government not-for-profit or any other accounting elective. Okay, so if you wanted that last elective to be accounting information systems, for example, that could work there. Okay, so track 3 goes over the tax track. So again, the prerequisite and core class section, that's the same. The track related core has tax 1, tax 2, taxation and planning of pass-through entities, multi-jurisdictional, and taxation. So you may need to substitute some of this if your undergrad degree was accounting and you've already taken tax 1, for example, you would just substitute it with another class. Track related elective hours, there's many different options, and so you just need to pick 12. Track 4, this is the kind of internal audit risk assurance track. So this one, besides the prerequisite and the core classes, the track related core are these 4 classes. And then the track related elective hours are down here. So you'll see that for this one, they're very focused on their own internal audit electives. But if you wanted to go on this track, but also take as many classes as you can towards CPA, you can do that by inserting those CPA review classes as substitutes into these elective courses here. So for example, you may want to take tax 1 and tax 2 and ethics, for example, as your electives under this track. Okay, track 5. So this one, same thing, the prerequisite and core courses. And so there's the track related core, which you have to pick 2 from set A and 1 from set B. And the one that most people do in set A is this planning control. I'm sorry, it's this advanced financial reporting. And some students also take financial statement analysis or business valuation. Now you will notice that in set B, you have a couple different options. You only have to pick one. And so this accounting systems class has a special note. It says A plus AIS, which means it counts towards 30 hours of accounting and the AIS requirement. So if you look here under this chart for all of the tracks, you'll see a listing, a summary list of these three requirements. So you can kind of see what is all required and what matches. So for example, this or advanced financial reporting. The reason why many students take it is because if it fills with 30 hours of accounting, 3 hours towards the 30, and then also 1 hour of the research towards 2 hours. So keep that in mind. And then what most people do with track 5 in terms of electives is they will go through and pick ones that are aligned with their current goal, or in this case, it could be the CPA. And so somebody may decide, I'm going to do tax 1 or this governance, risk management, and compliance. Both of these classes count for 3 hours of accounting plus 1 hour of communications. And then you have 4 remaining track 3 related elective courses. And so what you want to look at is out of these hours, 12 hours, 6 can be anything in accounting or JSOM. So you could technically pick 6 of those hours to be MIS related or finance related. So that's how that works. And then you guys have noticed little notes here. The A plus C1 means 3 hours of accounting plus 1 hour of communications. So that is track 5. Now, in terms of plotting out classes on your degree plan, this will be helpful for y'all. So first look at whatever track you've picked and then fill it in based on what the guidelines we've talked about so far. So every semester you want to try to take a class that's in the financial accounting sequence and either the managerial accounting sequence or tax sequence, or anything that's a prerequisite to anything else. Okay, so for example, in fall of 23, tax 2 is offered, and so some of you who've done tax 1 already would submit a prerequisite waiver to take tax 1, for example. Let's see, in fall of 23, other courses that someone could take will be advanced data analytics. This is going to be a hybrid class, a synchronous class. So you'll need to join virtually in real time. So that's one option for this class. It will be back to in person. It's expected to be back in person completely in the spring. Um, in fall, there's also tax research and uh, PT, partnership tax, which is going to be called taxation of pass-through entities. So you could choose from any of those. And then spring 24, you would just follow the sequence. So, maybe you took intermediate 1 and 2 previously. Now you want to do advanced financial reporting. Ethics is the lightest class in the degree plan. It's only 8 weeks and it's online. So you may want to pair it with a heavier semester. And then for spring of 24, there's just a few placeholders for electives, et cetera, which we can go over when you're at that point or after you've thought about it a little bit more. Summer of 24. So examples of classes that you might want to take would be financial statement analysis, government, non-for-profit, or the audit software class. Some of it is just based on offerings what's available. Then in fall 24, you could attempt to fill in the classes. Okay, so what I would do is look at your core classes and what you're planning to take, and then and your electives also mark down what you're going to take, and then you're going to come to degree plan sheet and plot in order. Does that make sense? So, for example, if you the sooner you take tax 1, for example, then you can take all the other tax electives after that. So there are some classes where it does matter the prerequisite and the timing, and some classes will not matter. You can do it anytime. Um, let's talk about the research track. So this track goes over coursework that somebody would take if they were wanting to go the research route. So I would also recommend you talking to other faculty who did go the PhD route or the research route, and they may be able to provide some helpful insight. So that's all. You guys, what we recommend is to fill in this degree plan sheet based on what you have listed that are required that you plan to take, and leave some other ones blank, and we can revisit it throughout your time here. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to me. But specifically, I wanted to notate kind of how the waivers can be affected through this degree plan worksheet process. Okay, so remember, you have a program prerequisite course. That's what everybody has, and you want to waive it. So you just have to register for it. Okay, that's easy. Now, look at some of the other classes that you may have. So if your background was accounting, that's what this degree plan sheet is for. That means you're going to submit core waivers for intermediate 1, 2, and cost because you've done that before. Okay, so you'll want to do that. Now, you would have probably done tax 1, so you can submit a waiver for tax 1 to take that tax 2 class, for example. So just look at what is needed of each of these classes, and you would need to fill out the waivers or purpose waivers so that you can also use it. So the timeline is this: for core waivers, that's intermediate 1, 2, and cost, or prerequisite waivers, the average turnaround time to get an approval from the advising office is about 3 weeks on average. Now, during registration period, it's very, very busy, so it's possible that they can get back with you earlier than that, but just know that they're dealing with high volumes. If you have any more questions for me, please feel free to reach out. One other thing you need to keep note of this is this. Okay, so if you have any issues related to the waivers, go ahead and contact the advising office. Okay, so for example, if you submitted the waiver for financial accounting, so you can take tax 1 in the fall and they haven't got back with you yet, then you could follow up. That'll be fine. Okay, so that's the prerequisite waiver. Now the core waiver, intermediate 1, 2, and cost. Okay, so if you get those waived, then you would just need to take other upper level accounting classes in its place. One thing to note in that this part you can also follow up with advising on in terms of just consistency of how it's applied. But if you got waived from intermediate 1, you should have gotten waived from financial accounting and managerial accounting. You should have. And if that's the case, that would help you in terms of being able to register on your own. Otherwise, if you submitted a prerequisite waiver, for example, you submitted a waiver for financial for tax one because you want to take tax two here. Well, only the advisors can manually add you in. So just be a little bit patient with certain classes and how to modify that. Um, I think that was most of the information I wanted to get to you. Again, the example I went over is just for students with an accounting background, but we have this type of version for students without accounting backgrounds also. And so hopefully that can be helpful. Feel free to reach out if you have any more questions. Um, I hope that this was helpful, and let me also share my screen with y'all. Okay, so here it is. So this is the one that I went over just now with the tracks. Track one, track two, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this file you will get in your admin email. Um, and if you have specific questions, feel free to reach out. Okay, thanks so much and have a great day. Bye bye.